figuring it out. Okay, so you guys should be looking at my screen that says beat the bloat and fix your digestion, the one thing you need to finally tackle your tummy troubles. Is that right? Perfect. I'm loving the thumbs up. That's helping me a lot. Okay, perfect. So I think we had enough time to let everybody trickle in. We might still get some people in. That's okay. This will be recorded, so do not stress if you miss anything. I will make sure that we get this recorded, and just reach out if you are interested, and I will send it over to you. Awesome. Okay, so, oh, there's Taryn. Perfect, perfect, perfect. And let's see. Okay, so the first thing I want to ask everyone to do is to focus. So this training is a really, really, really good training. It has a lot of really good information. And so I just want to make sure that you're really engaged, you're really grabbing as much as you can from it. So if you can if you're on a computer, close any tabs. If you are, on your phone, just try to put on do not disturb, that kind of thing, just so you can make sure that you're paying attention here. So I want to make sure everybody gets as much out of this as possible. And then basically, if you have a notes app, you can jot down some notes there. If you want to take notes with a pen and paper, do that as well. Okay, perfect. I see Sonia has dropped off, but that's okay. I will make sure I add you back in here when I see you come through. Okay, perfect. Okay. Also, I just wanted to invite everybody to, if possible, please stay into the end, because this is there's so much really great information in here. And at the end, I have a amazing bonus. And also just please make sure everybody's muted. I think they are. Okay, yeah. I have an amazing bonus at the end where I will give you access to a free gut health assessment and a one-on-one coaching call with me. So if you get through the presentation, and I hope that you love it, I know that you're gonna get some really good information. You can also book a call with me for 30 minutes. We'll look into your gut health completely free. I have a program which I'll talk through in towards the end of this, but even if you have no interest in that, you are more than welcome to this gut health assessment. And I would love just to give you some insight into what's going on with your digestion. So definitely stay till the end and you will get some really great stuff from this. Also, my promise to you is you will know exactly why what you've been doing has not worked, how to identify and address the root cause of your IBS so that you can really rebalance your digestion and finally eat the foods that you love again. So that might be a quesadilla every now and then, piece of cheese pizza, pepperoni pizza, whatever it is, and obviously not all the time. But you'll be able to actually do that because your body is to a place where you are rebalanced. So we're going to figure out or talk through how to get away from just kind of managing your IBS with maybe over-the-counter drugs, and we'll go into that in different tactics, but we'll look at how to really get to the root cause of your digestive issues so that you can start feeling better again. Awesome. Okay, so one thing I would love to know, can you relate? So definitely feel free to drop a Y in the chat if you can relate to this, a Y for yes. So, any of these at all. So, are you sick of feeling bloated, nauseous, and in pain whenever you eat? Are you fed up with the endless cycle of medication that doesn't work? Are you sick of bouncing from doctor to doctor, having all of your labs results coming back as fine, but feeling like crap? And that's no pun intended. Yes. Yeah, I see a couple yeses in the chat. Yep. Are you sick of feeling resentment for all the foods that you can't eat and the activities that you aren't able to be a part of? Yes, the emoji. I love that. Yes. That's a good one. But yeah, are you sick of feeling like you're missing out? You're missing out on time with friends and family. You're missing out on the foods that you love. You can't enjoy anything because you just feel like you're in such great pain. And are you just feeling unsure if you'll ever be able to fix your digestion for good and actually eat the foods that you enjoy? So I see, yep, dairy is scary. I see a lot of yeses in the comments. So, obviously a lot of foods have a lot of pretty rough reactions. So, that can cause a lot of frustration, especially if it goes to the extent of really kind of debilitating you for the day, right? So, absolutely, I can definitely relate. So definitely, I want you to first understand that it's not your fault. So there's this paradigm that keeps us stuck in this cycle of confusing food culture. You know, sometimes they might say that healthy food is low-fat yogurt or sugar-free yogurt, right? And that has the fake sugar and it's the milk and all that. Or it might say that, you know, avoid all fruit because fruit is bad. It's very confusing and it's just conflicting information, especially if you're dealing with IBS and some very specific issues that there's even more confusion. So it's not your fault because it's just a lot of mess out there. And also an inadequate medical system for addressing chronic illnesses, right? So the medical system was designed to treat acute illnesses. If you, you know, got a bad infection, or if you broke your leg or leg got chopped off, that's graphic, but you know, it was designed for that. So, but as we've evolved over the years, you know, we've seen more and more chronic illnesses, and those chronic illnesses aren't being adequately addressed in our medical system because we are basically trying to stick a band-aid of a pharmaceutical drug on it, but the drug is not meant to actually fix the problem. It's just meant to mask the symptoms. And also there's this constant societal pressure causing stress, which just makes everything worse. So it's, you know, you have the 9 to 5, but we have computers that are in phones and tablets and everything, Apple Watches that are linked to everything. And so we're always on, we're always bombarded by all this stress, always, you know, being asked to do more and more with the same resources that we had before. And that is just too much. That's a lot on the system. So don't worry, it is not just you, it is the system. It is how it's built. But just, I want you to kind of pause and it's like, stop thinking about all the things that are frustrating you and are difficult. Let's just think about, like, what could it look like? So imagine if you no longer had to worry about having to cancel plans because you're not feeling well. Imagine if you no longer have to stress about having all the bathrooms mapped out when you leave the house in case something comes up, an emergency flare, right? Imagine if you're able to eat your favorite meals again without the fear and anxiety of what will follow. And imagine if you can finally feel your true and authentic lit up self. Go back to Beyonce, Break My Soul. I hope you guys could hear that, but imagine you can feel that way because you're not consumed by stress and anxiety from your IBS and digestive issues. So I want you to keep that in mind. But also, before I go too far into what I'm sharing, I do want to introduce myself. I guess I'm a little deep in there. For people who might be new to my world, people who might you know, haven't heard my story before, I want to share this, share a little insight with you. So this is a little bit about who I am. So I think one of the most important, like, hobbies, I don't know if it's important, these are just a bunch of things that I like other things too, but these are some of the ones that pop out to me. I am definitely a traveler, like a world traveler. That is like what I do. When COVID happened and I couldn't go to 3 countries in a year, it was depressing, and I'm sure that, you know, that's first world problems, and I understand that. But I just love traveling. I love getting to know different cultures. I love getting to experience different cuisines, and I'll map that in a little bit later. So I've actually been to over 20 countries, most of which were probably in the last 5 or 6 years. I'd say I had spent some time in Europe, but I've gone to a lot of different countries, and I just absolutely love traveling. So you will always see me integrating different things from my travels into what I'm doing. So the next thing too is a chef. I like to call myself a chef. I like to experiment in the kitchen. And like I was just saying, I love traveling and I love the culture. And so I find different ways of intertwining different things into my recipes. So for example, one recipe that I had never like heard of until I went to Ireland with my grandma actually. And when I went there, at the farmer's market, they had a sweet potato brownie. And it's not anything that's like Irish per se, but basically instead of flour, they use a sweet potato. So if you have gluten, yes, yeah, I'm seeing some yums in the chat, yes. So if you have gluten intolerance, if you have intolerance to a lot of the processed stuff, this is an easy way to be able to still get that sweetness, but in a healthier and more like natural way. So I take all the things that I learned from traveling and I integrate it into my different dishes, into how I operate within my, you know, lifestyles and all that kind of stuff. So That's one of my favorite things, very important for me. And then also I am a foodie, like I live and breathe for amazing tasting food. Sweets are definitely like my my weakness. Like I love a good sweet. And so I created a whole recipe book on healthy sweets because I know myself and I know that I'm going to want something sweet. So let me make sure I have something that I've thought about ahead of time to satisfy that craving. So if anybody has not seen that recipe book, definitely let me know because I would love to share it with you. But yes, and let me just take a swig of my water. And this slide, you might recognize an individual on here. This is my beautiful mom, and she is also on this presentation or on this Zoom call. And so just a little bit more about me, about what drives me. So my family is absolutely what drives me. So my family is what, like, they're my why. It's why I chose to get into health and wellness. And so first of all, my grandma, who's on the right hand side of the picture, she had a lot of mysterious illnesses or diseases of the body that doctors weren't able to figure out. And I'll talk about it a little bit more later. And my mom had a breast cancer diagnosis. And so I really wanted to make sure that I'm putting myself out there and helping people, not just using the knowledge, keeping the knowledge in my brain, but actually helping people to implement healthier changes, to do things differently so that we can rebalance the body and not experience some of these diseases of the body. And also my own personal battle with stress and gut issues. I'll go into it a little bit later. But all of that led me to getting my certification in AFPA. It's AFPA certified holistic nutrition, integrative health practitioner, and personal training. So I like to kind of do it from a holistic perspective. And a little bit more about me, and this will tap into a little bit of the stress that I mentioned. So I graduated from Northwestern University, chemical engineering. I thought that's what I wanted to do to change the world. But anyway, so I went to Northwestern, got a degree in chemical engineering. I also was a D1 cheerleader. So you can see me in that obnoxious purple polka dot bow. So it's pretty embarrassing. But if you have the luxury of seeing my screen on the Zoom, you can laugh with me here. And at least you can't see how bright the red lipstick is, but it was not the most flattering. But that was me just being, D1 athlete at Northwestern, a very prestigious university, doing a very difficult degree. And, I just had a lot of pressure on myself. And so, feeling like I always had to be on my A game. I felt like I had to be on the, be on the field. I had to be in the lab. I had to be, with my friends doing all the things, and put a lot of pressure on myself. And if you might feel like, you're always the one supporting those around you, whether it's your career, your family, just anything in life, your kids. And so that can also feel like you're always under pressure to perform. So it's like you always have to be at, on your A game. So that's a lot. And that's just, that kind of builds up over time, and it can really get to be heavy for someone. And yes, Terrence said, my mom is the most beautiful, kind, loving woman of God. Love, she is your reason. Yes, absolutely. You are my reason, Mom. I love you. Love you too, Taryn. Oh man, so that's a little bit about my background. And so how did I get here? So like I said, chemical engineering, I had a desire to change the world. So originally I was trying to figure out what can I do. I wanted to cure cancer, cure AIDS. I had all these things that I wanted to do. So anyway, so I realized that, okay, how can I change the world? Well, in my mind, curing cancer, curing AIDS, that's always a medication. So I was like, okay, let me work for a pharma company, because that is how I see that people can, make big changes. Also, like I mentioned, I had I had some challenges managing my stress during school. So while I was going, I was working at this pharma company, but I was also still carrying through this inability to manage my stress. So I was feeling very stressed out. I was feeling like I had a lot of bloating, brain fog, and just always overwhelmed by stress. And so there were a few years when just like my excitement for life and what was to come was just not there. It just was very muted. So that can be very hard. And so with all that happening, I also had some stuff going on with my grandma, as I mentioned. So she's had some constant struggles for years with her inability to eat pretty much anything. Even healthy foods, she's not able to eat it because her body just does not, is not able to digest it. It just rejects it, and it shows up in many different ways. And so I started working with her to create a tailored plan for, let's say she could only have 7 foods. So I would figure out, okay, what's a lunch she can have with these 7 foods, what's a dinner she can have with these 7 foods, what's a dessert, and what's a breakfast, right? So I was always trying to find ways of making things fit. And that might be my engineering background, kind of like, how do we solve this puzzle? So it's always it's always been a little fun with that. And with my grandma, she would always go, she would go to her doctors like month after month, get labs done. They'll come back and saying, great news, your labs look normal. It's like, well, if you feel like crap, you don't want to hear that. It's like, okay, well, what's the answer? So that's where and that's where I decided, there has to be something better. There has to be a different way. So that's where, and I started to realize our current medical system just does not address disease in the way that we need it to. So we need to figure out how to actually identify the underlying root cause and not just the symptoms. And so that's where I realized a paradigm shift was absolutely needed. We need to figure out a way to just reset and find a different approach to health and wellness. So this is when I decided to destroy the preconceived notions of what healthcare meant. And this is, as you know, my background is in chemical engineering. And so chemistry, we have this beaker. You have to imagine this beaker. And Jess, you'll know this. You'll love this. So imagine this beaker, and this beaker is just full of all these preconceived notions of what you expect, out of the world, out of healthcare, how to, you expect that the doctors will have your answer. You expect that pharmaceuticals are good for you and it will help you get better. You expect that, things will work in the way that's needed to support you. But what I realized is that's just not how it is. So this is like my mission is just breaking that beaker, smashing it on the ground and saying, you know what, forget all of that. Let's figure out what works. Yes, Jess. So figure out what works, right? So we need to figure out, stop limiting ourselves to this small bubble of what we're being told and just start looking at some other options, look at what really works. And so, like, how can we find another way to care for people's health that results in people actually feeling better? So that's my mission. And so that's what drove me to create my gut health program that's called the Complete Digestive Reset System. And so I like that that naming, because it's just we're resetting everything. We're not adding things on top of it. Sometimes you have to kind of shake things up and reset it in order to fix it. So this program is tailored to high-performing women dealing with chronic stress, just like I was feeling in all of my, Northwestern and my job, dealing with chronic stress, and who are also feeling symptoms of IBS and IBD. So that might be nausea, bloating, vomiting, upset stomach, whatever it might be, and help them fix their digestion so they can actually show up powerfully for their family, their career, and their community. So this right here on this visual, yes, all of the above, yes. So this visual right here, I want to show you the cycle of how we end up in this place in the first place, right? Like we have some issues, some digestive issues. Why does it feel like we're like on a hamster wheel and can never get off? The first thing is, a lot of times, first when you might start having some issues, you might try to first of all, you might try to ignore it, right? So if you have your favorite foods and you're eating them and, it's not agreeing with you, you're gonna be like, it's fine. And I've done that before. Like, we're human. Sometimes it's just like, whatever. Or sometimes we might try to, do some home remedies to kind of like, that might make us feel a little bit better. But when that doesn't work, then we start to say, okay, what's something over the counter? What can I get to start feeling better? Maybe it's Pepto-Bismol or whatever, one of those other, or it might be a proton pump inhibitor, whatever it is. You grab that and try to use that for a little bit. When that stops working, then you go to the doctor and you say, doctor, I don't know what's going on. I can't figure out why my digestion, is so off. And that goes into a whole black hole, because first of all, they may not believe you, and we'll go into some of these things. They might think, oh, everything looks fine, you're fine. But then it starts going into like a ping pong kind of effect of where you're getting referred from doctor to doctor to doctor, and you're just not getting any answers. And then once you realize that that's not going to work, then you go back to a holistic hodgepodge, is what I like to say, which is where you're just like on Google, just trying to figure out, okay, what can I do here? What can I do here? What can I do here? When you get frustrated with that, a lot of times you just say, whatever, I'm done. I'm just going to ignore it. So you just end up back in the cycle. So it's just like a little circle, just keep on this hamster wheel, right? Let's see. So I talked about a lot of what's not working, and I don't want to bring everybody down, because it's very important that, yes, we have some information that's not so great, but let's also bring ourselves up here as well. So what I want to do here is show you that all hope is not lost. You're not bound to this cycle forever. So this next slide here, it's a little busy, but it had a lot of really great information that I wanted to share with you. This is a testimonial from one of my clients named Maya. Give me a second, because I need to get a little sip. Okay, so Maya is someone that I worked with for a few months, and it's just amazing to see her change. And so I've put some snippets of different conversations we've had together. And, you know, I just like to see, how are you feeling? How are things going for you? And so this is the kind of trajectory of how things went. So I'll read some of these quotes to you, and you might even resonate with some of these. The first thing is, you know, she said, I've been dealing with this for so long. Nothing is working. I don't know what else to do. I'm going to live with this for the rest of my life. I'm feeling really hopeless. And that just hurts my heart to hear someone say that. And then she said, you know, I had stopped taking all medications that they were prescribing for my gut. It was just too much. I didn't like the side effects. I've been diagnosed with IBS, lupus, fibromyalgia. I eliminated all the things that I thought were causing issues, but I was still having issues. And finally, she was saying, symptom flares are extremely high. I'm kind of scared to eat pretty much anything. And so just imagine, you know, like, and you might have even experienced this yourself, where it's like you're in constant fear of whatever you're going to eat is going to cause a flare up. And so you just don't eat, and then you end up starving. And then usually that also causes a flare up. So it's kind of a cycle. It's a vicious cycle. But once I started working with Maya and brought her into my program, this was like the first week or two. So we made some initial changes that were just like, right off the bat, we're going to get you some quick wins, right? Because there's some deep work we have to do, but we also want to do some quick wins. And so this is what she said. She said, I eliminated cheese entirely from my diet. And let me say, by the way, she described herself as such a cheesy, I would say. She was like, I would brush my teeth with cheese. I mean, she didn't really, but she would have cheese on everything, literally everything. She loved it. So asking her to give it up was a big ask, but she did it. So she said, I eliminated cheese entirely from my diet, and it seems that cheese has been the cause of some of my digestive issues that I've experienced. So not any of the stomach turmoil, the nausea, the vomiting, none of that, none of how it used to be. So that was, yeah, exactly. Terrence said, dairy is scary. It is. And so then now after we worked together in my program, she said, I can definitely tell the difference, that there is less bacteria overgrowth because everything is processing and breaking down the way it should. I am so amazed and so pleased with the results. I'm able to eat a regular bread sandwich. What I didn't have in here is the sandwich had cheese. She also was able to eat a quesadilla with no reaction. A quesadilla, which was cheese and also the flour tortilla. So that's like double whammy. So that was amazing. Of course, we do not want to just eat dairy and gluten and all that kind of stuff consistently, but we want to be able to eat something and understand how our body's going to react, and understand that our body has some tolerance for some wiggle room if we want to do something for our birthday, right? So that was really exciting to see. The next thing she said is, I'm doing great. I can't believe I got this far. I can't believe I've done it. It was tough in the beginning. Like I said, she was a cheesehead. But once you get so far, you start to finally see what is working. That's helping. You're not having the reaction, and that's what kept me going. I really feel good. And then finally, that shouldn't be a question mark. She said, oh, what a difference, getting the outside help and the outside perspective. So just showing you that, yes, even though it can be very scary when you're in the midst of it, it's very possible to come out on the other end of it and feeling so much better. All right, so now I want to touch on some of the things that we talked through as far as why, like that endless cycle, why we're not getting better. And so I want to provide a little bit of I kind of want to provide a little bit of like an example of why this little cycle keeps happening. So for example, one of the reasons you're not healing is the over-the-counter approach. So you take antacids, laxatives, Pepto-Bismol on a daily basis to manage your issues. What is crazy is that the antacids and the proton pump inhibitors, now they prescribe that when you have acid reflux. What tends to be the case though, when you have acid reflux, is because you're under a lot of stress. And so there's a certain valve in your esophagus that's supposed to close when it has enough acid. But what happens is it doesn't have enough acid, so it stays open. And so you get that backup acid. And so what they're doing is they're lowering the acid even further. So that's why you're not able to digest your food. You're getting a lot of bloating and just, it's because your body's not processing things as it needs to be. So it's like they're treating the symptom, but it's not the root cause. Another crazy thing is like the cycle of antidiarrheals and laxative, laxative. Wait, is that, laxative. Sorry. So basically, if maybe you are having trouble going to the bathroom, so you take a laxative, but then laxatives cause issues, and now you're kind of on the other end, so you have to try to take an antidiarrheal. So it's just like a cycle, right? So it's so frustrating. And number two, another reason why it's so difficult is because we rely on doctors so much to be the answer, to be the answer to everything. And obviously there is a place for doctors. However, in chronic illnesses, we have to understand it's just very, it's multidimensional, and we have to look at things outside of just that one point in time when we're with a doctor. So for example, your doctor might say your labs look perfectly normal, or it's just in your head because your labs look perfectly normal. They might also say that diet doesn't impact your symptoms. So I've heard a lot of people who have IBS, IBD, and they're saying, it doesn't matter what you eat, you're still going to have it. So that's just terrible. And then, they'll say, I'll give you a prescription to manage. That might be a steroid, an antibiotic, PPI, whatever. And then they might end up saying, look, there's nothing else we can do, right? And let me show you why this is not right. So with their labs looking perfectly normal, the labs are meant to diagnose disease, but there's also levels. There's a middle range, right? Where maybe you don't have a disease, but you're feeling like a disease as we've, I guess, like stated it, but your body is very imbalanced, and it's showing up because it's like, in the middle range, but it's not quite at that disease level. And so they say, oh, everything's fine, it's within range, but that range is huge. Obviously it's just in your head that makes you feel like you're going crazy. Diet doesn't impact your symptoms. And I want you to think about this too. Like, a couple examples. One is, if dairy messes up a person who's pretty healthy, imagine if you're diagnosed with IBS or IBD and you're already, not as healthy, your digestive system is not as healthy, and you eat dairy. I mean, it just doesn't make sense that we wouldn't say, hey, let's start looking at maybe eliminating some dairy and seeing how you feel. And just like, let's say like your skin is your largest organ. And if you have a breakout on your skin, the first thing we look at is, what did you put on your skin? So just like your gut, if your gut has a flare up, what did you put on the gut? What is like interacting with the gut? So sometimes we have to think a little bit differently than the doctors might be telling us to, or just the powers who be, whatever. And then, the last one is, I'll get you a prescription to manage. And a lot of times those prescriptions are just doing more harm than good, especially if it's like an antibiotic, where the antibiotic might wipe out a lot of the good bacteria along with the bad bacteria, and then it just leaves even more powerful bad bacteria, stuff like that. So there's a lot of things that are just causing some cycles. And then also there's nothing we can do. So that's not helpful. And yes, inflamed skin is also your gut crying. Absolutely. So yes, it's complex, and we tend to look at things as individual separate systems, but we're all connected completely. So number two, just going back to like what does work, right? So because your labs look perfectly normal, obviously the doctor might say that, but we have functional medicine labs that we can do that actually look closer at your it'll look at that more narrow range, so that you can see, are you in the optimal range? So we can see that maybe you're not in the optimal range, but you're not in the disease range, and that might be why you're experiencing some of these issues. And I can talk about that in Q&A if anybody has any questions. And then it's just in your head, right? Like we completely understand that you are a person and you are valid, like your opinions and your feelings are valid. So we're not going to just, ignore and dismiss what you're saying is happening because we don't see it on labs. So we look to see what is the background of the person, what kind of things might you be experiencing. Maybe there's some reasons why it's not showing up as you would expect. So we look at the whole person. Diet doesn't impact your symptoms. I mean, the food we eat, we already know has a direct impact on the gut health. So I'm going to talk about that again. I'll get you a prescription to manage. I am not saying that prescriptions are not, don't have a time and a place. There is a time and a place for different prescriptions. However, let's also look in addition to see what can we be doing in our lifestyle, what can we be doing in our, like internally to help to reset some things, and then maybe you won't need to be on those prescription medications. And yeah, and there's always something we can do. Yeah, the last one is there's nothing we can do. No, that's not the case at all. All right. And this last one here is, you're dealing with the holistic hodgepodge. So I have this dart thing right here because you're just trying to like figure out, throw different things out there and see what might help, what might not, but it's not really a system. And so that might include, restrictive diets and elimination diets that you never get off of, right? Those are not meant to be long-term. Those are meant to be for a short period of time until you're able to kind of get your body rebalanced, and then you're able to start eating more broader range of foods. So you should not be eating, only protein for 6 months, right? You should be eating a combination of protein, starches and or protein, carbs, and fats, of course, the good healthy ones. And so we just want to make sure that we're not just sticking to one diet that's an extreme for long periods of time. High fiber diets, low FODMAP, kind of similar. And then hodgepodge of supplements, right? So with varying quality. So a lot of times we don't get good quality supplementation. So you need to make sure that you're getting it from a company that you trust and that is actually free of those toxins and allergens. So it might be like some supplement companies have dairy and gluten in there. So if you're trying to take something for your gut and you already are sensitive to dairy and gluten, that's not going to help you very much. So you want to make sure that you're using a good supplementation company. Okay, so how do we actually get better, right? That's the number one question. So it starts with our mind. So beliefs turn into actions, which turn into results. And so if you have a faulty belief, you're going to get faulty results. Yes. Okay, Jess, I see you you've had your own supplement pharmacy. Okay, I love it. I love it. All right, so we need to start assessing our belief, which drives our actions. So here are some beliefs that you might need to dig deeper in and kind of shake up if this is what you're feeling. So one might be nothing will work for me, or to feel better, I have to eat foods I don't like, or the only way to get better is through prescription drugs, or I can't afford to spend money on myself right now. I just have too many other responsibilities, or it just runs in the family, right? That's a very common one. Okay, oops. There we go. Okay, so for nothing will work for me, man. One of my favorite quotes, whether we think we can or whether we think we can't, we're right. So if you think that you can't, then you can't. If you think that you can, you will find a way. So our brain wants to prove us right. So if we tell our brain that this is going to work, then we'll find all the reasons why it will work. And even when obstacles come up, we'll just say, it's fine. It's a little bit of a hurdle, but this will work. But if we say that, it won't work, then as soon as something comes up, we'll say, oh, well, this is why it won't work, right? So we want to make sure that we're really evaluating what are we saying to ourselves? What are we telling ourselves about what's possible? And the final one too is I have a proven system, which I'll talk to you about a little bit later, but I have a proven system to take into account like your unique body to understand you and address your root cause issues. So this is very specific to you. This is a system that has backing of other people who have gone through it, other like very, very intelligent people who have put together this program and all of the data, behind it. So you want to make sure that, okay, of course, you want to make sure you have confidence that it'll work, but make sure that it's something that is really, something that's valid, right? So that's just a quick note on that. Or one of my favorite ones, to feel better, I have to eat foods I don't like. Man, I'm guessing you guys haven't seen my delicious dairy-free, gluten-free, refined sugar-free cheesecake, um, or other delicious recipes that I have in my book, or other, whether it's dessert or not. So this is my cheesecake. This is the sweet potato muffin, or sweet potato brownies. And we have some other delicious entrees that are so good, flavorful, full of color, just full of just such great flavor, right? Like I said, I'm a foodie through and through, so I'm not going to slack on the flavor. I am not just going to eat bland chicken and like broth or rice. I just can't do that. But also in addition to that, you need to change your perspective and make it fun so that you eat it. So for example, one of my favorite things to eat, most days is a smoothie bowl. So, I have a smoothie right here. But if you get sick of it, then, you can make an acai bowl where you just basically have the same smoothie. You just don't blend up all the ingredients. You sprinkle on top, make it look pretty. And there you go. It's different. It's awesome. So you have to think about things in a different way and be open to thinking about it in that way. And let's see. Oh yeah, and also I've been doing this for my grandma for years, like I mentioned. Okay. One of the other thought processes that are just not beneficial is the only way to get rid of chronic digestive issues is through prescription drugs. So yes, like I said, prescription drugs have a time and their place, but it's just not forever. Drugs will mask the symptoms so that you feel better, but often it won't address the root cause many times. People tend to also become resistant to those drugs. They might have really bad side effects. They might just have undesired consequences when using those drugs. So that's another reason why you just don't want to rely on drugs and a lot of drugs over a long period of time. And then unfortunately, many drugs also come, with a host of negative effects. And also, we have options. We have the internet. We have people from around the world who have been doing it differently for years. Why not use that knowledge to, look at what actually works, what really helps? And Jess mentioned the money in the pharmaceuticals. Yeah, there's a lot of money there. So there's more money in pharma than there is in broccoli. So, if you're ever wondering why people aren't figuring out, why don't we just look at broccoli to help get you better? I mean, there's not so much money in it. So like I said, there are good things from the pharmaceutical world. There absolutely are, but it's very specific. And we don't want it to be applied to everything, just our daily life, right? We don't want to use that to address things that, like to address lifestyle issues. If we're not moving enough, a drug is not going to be what we need to start moving. So stuff like that. And this is one of my favorite ones. When people say, I can't afford to spend money or time on myself, I have too many other responsibilities. So the first thing I want to do is change this spend, right? This is where we need to change the perspective. Spending is not the same as investing. So investing, you get a return. Spending, you don't. So if you are investing in yourself in a health program, if it's a business program, whatever, you're getting a return. So for a health program, you're able to show up differently in your life, get some time back because you're not spending so much time, feeling down. So you want to start changing your mind of what does spending versus investing look like? And then, yes, change your mindset. Absolutely. Oops, sorry, hold on. There we go. Okay. And so these are some questions I want to ask. I want you to ask yourself. So what is a potential return if I invest in myself? So is it being more present with my family, participating in outings with my friends? What is the cost if you don't invest in yourself? So is it time off of work, time away from family, less excitement for my life, the literal cost of medications and doctors and ER visits and all of those things? And then what happens if you're so sick that you can't support those who need you? So if you're reason, death, right? If you're not here, then you can't support those around you. So you need to prioritize yourself first so that you can actually be there for others. So like I said, by investing in what you need first, you'll be able to be more present and supportive for those around you. So just like the airlines say, you need to put your oxygen mask on first. And they say that for a reason on every single airline, right? Yes. And let's see. One of the other ones is it runs in my family. One thing that a lot of people like to rely on is the idea of, oh, it's in my genetics, right? But there's this thing called epigenetics, and that's how our behaviors and our environment can cause changes that affect the way our genes work. So maybe you're more susceptible to it, but it's it's often because there are things in your life that you're doing or things that are around you that are making those genes express in that way. So you're not able to counteract it. So the reason why a lot of people see this run in their family, quote unquote, is because the family tends to be in the same environment or similar environments. Tend to be doing the same behaviors, right? Things that you've learned as a child. It's something that you just kind of carry through life. And just because you're more susceptible to it doesn't mean you have to suffer from it. So this can absolutely stop with you. And now finally, this is where I want to get into what really changed everything. Okay, so the reason you showed up here is because you wanted to figure out why you can't eat without excessive bloating, excruciating pain, nausea, vomiting, upset stomach, all of that. You're here if you're tired of not knowing what to eat to finally feel better. You're at a loss for what you need to do to fix the issue. You're sick of throwing spaghetti at a wall and seeing what sticks when it comes to all of these different options out there. And you want to finally address your GI issues for good. And this is why I discovered what works. So you have to look at the root of the issue, not just the symptoms. And I've been mentioning that throughout, right? So I want to give a very maybe visual example. I want you to think of a pond of fish that's on your property, right? So of course it's on your property and you want to, oh, hey, I see someone on Instagram. What's up? Hey. So it's on your property. You want to make sure that it's, thriving, right? But you go to the pond and you notice that there's actually like thousands of dead fish in there, right? You just see dead fish floating to the top looking like this. It's not attractive, right? So if you want to get your beautiful pond back, we have a couple of options. We can we can add in some food, some plants, maybe some new fish to make it look better, right? And maybe the new fish can, I don't know, reproduce or something. And then the second option is we can identify the source of the pollution, address the pollution, and then we can add the new fish, the plants, and all of that. And obviously remove the dead fish, right? So obviously it's number two that we want to do. We want to make sure we're getting rid of the root cause so it doesn't just keep happening again. We want to make sure we're getting rid of the old bacteria so it's not tainting some of the stuff in our system. And so that's the beautiful pond I want you imagining here. So the question is, how do we find the root cause, right? And this root cause, this is what is really the differentiator for me, is leveraging functional medicine lab testing. Like functional medicine lab testing is absolutely, it's state of the art, like science, technology, and so much great data and studies behind it, but it's just not out there so much as some of the other like just general labs that you get with your doctor. So this functional medicine lab, as I mentioned before, it looks at a more narrow range of what it looks like to be healthy and functional. And so we want to make sure that we're looking at that range to see, maybe we're closer to the edge than we think, right? And so maybe that's why we're having some of our issues. Also, we look at the lifestyle habits and deficiencies. So that helps us to understand. So both of those items help us to understand, your imbalances. So from the physiological side, that might be the gut bacteria, vitamins and mineral imbalances, detox pathway issues, and it could also be the lifestyle, which is nutrition, stress management, all of that. Often it's a combination of both. And let's see, where did it go? There we go. And then to get to the root, really, this is where my journey with my grandma really showed me, yes, the doctors mean well, they want to help, but they don't always have all the answers. And so I learned how and where to look for that root cause. Like I said, the functional medicine labs, those intake forms of looking at the lifestyle audit and assessments. And just to learn to work with the body as a whole and not compartmentalize, like not just the gut and not just the skin, not just the brain, they're all connected. Absolutely. And yes, you can see those on the functional medicine labs. And Taryn, absolutely, those labs are absolutely so insightful. It's amazing. So you have to address those root causes. Like I said, the bacteria, yeast overgrowth, which is causing those issues such as leaky gut, autoimmune issues, bloating, gas, IBS, IBD, all of that, as well as the unmanaged stress and all of that that might be impacting your ability to digest. And that will help you to understand what to attack in order to start to get better. All right. And I think we can skip this one. It's basically the same. But also here's where I want to highlight, it is not enough to know, we have to do this, right? We're a generation or a society of acquiring knowledge. We have Dr. Google where we can find all the information, but if we're not implementing it, it's not doing us any good. It's not doing our loved ones or our families that are relying on us any good. So we need a step-by-step plan to address the root cause so that you can stop doing all the things that don't work and prioritize the highest priority and key elements that do. So this is where my secret sauce comes into play. So like I said, we have the knowledge from the functional medicine testing. We have the knowledge, a step-by-step plan to address those root causes. I work with you to unlearn some of those thought patterns that are not helpful to you, that might be holding you back. And then also, obviously I'm a professional that has experience with this, and this is where I can really give you the insight into what's going on. And you don't have to wait 3 to 6 months between doctor visits that for broad advice, but you're working with someone who sees what you're doing on a day-to-day and how you're responding. It will make and I will make adjustments and recommendations based off of your results as well as your lifestyle, what's working for you. And that's where, and also just the last and probably like one of the biggest things is the accountability and a sense of community. It's really hard to do it on your own, especially because, like I said, the system and the world is not set up for us to succeed in this arena, right? We have McDonald's on every corner, we have fast food, all that kind of stuff. And it's just not meant for us to succeed when it comes to our health. So having that community and having that accountability is where you can really start to make those changes. And this is where I have the complete digestive reset system. Like I said, those 5 things that I mentioned, the functional medicine lab testing, the supplementation lifestyle plan, the weekly mindset coaching, the direct access to me, and daily accountability for that sense of community. And so with that, this is where I've been able to get my clients just such great results, being able to eat their favorite foods again. They have the tools to course correct if they find themselves slipping back into old patterns, because we're human, like I said, it will happen, but that how to listen to how your body's responding and how to make adjustments. They're able to spend time with their family and friends on their terms and not looking at, what's their digestive system doing and can they afford it. They have the confidence to walk into a room without worrying about having to run to the bathroom, and they're actually able to live their life on their terms, which is the biggest thing. Also, did I mention, not only will you have this proven system, but you also get access to some bomb recipes that I have that will have you completely rethinking everything that you think you know about eating healthy. I have a few different recipe books that I've shared, but I have a plethora of just amazing recipes that I just love, and I am just so excited to share with you. And yes, Jessica said bomb. I shared some with her this morning, and she absolutely loved them. So if anybody would like a little bit of a glimpse, yes. If you want a glimpse, definitely let me know and I can share some of those with you. And also I want to share one more glimpse into what's possible for you as just when it comes to your health, when it comes to your digestive health. This is my client, Austin, and this is a little wordy. I just had the actual video testimonial just yesterday, so I didn't get a chance to put it into a video, like chop it up, but I want to kind of read out the progress, like the process and the transition process. I don't know why my mind is blanking, but whatever, how it went for him from start to finish. So the first thing, he was saying he was eating a home cooked meal with some friends, and he had some red meat with some veggies and rice and some wine. And the next morning he woke up with the worst pain shooting from his stomach. And he said, I would even have to, oh shoot, I'm sorry, the typos in there, please ignore. But he would even have to bite a towel because the pain was so bad. He said, I thought I had a solid game plan, after that happened, he was working through his digestive issues and he thought he had a solid game plan. He would be eating his protein, his veggies, and then some sort of starch, and doing a lot of the meal prepping. He thought he was doing all the right things, but he said, I just didn't understand what the balance looked like within. And so he wasn't able to actually do what was needed for his body. So he said, I've done all the antibiotics, I've tried the meal preps, I'm still working out, but the pain is still there. So there's got to be something that I can do to help this discomfort. And that's where the guidance, this is what he's saying, that's where the guidance that I provided, he said, that's where the guidance that you provided really came in for me to identify what I could include in my meal preps and what maybe I should start to tweak in order to dial back. And the last thing that he said that just sums it all up is, I feel great. I'm sorry, like I said, this was, it was actually a audio to typing. So there's a lot of confusing words in here. I'm giving you the gist, okay? But he said, so I feel great, a complete 180, when we first started this, I don't know how, but I've also lost a really good amount of weight too. So that's something he had been working on for a long time, and he wasn't able to see traction even with the diet and exercise, but we looked at the gut health, started to fix some things there, and he's feeling so much better. So it's been really cool. And just as a reminder, as what my promise was to you, I wanted to give you that glimpse to see what's possible, but I want to bring you back. This is what my promise was to you. By the end of this training, you'll know exactly why what you've been doing hasn't worked, how to identify and address the root cause of your IBS so that you can rebalance your digestion and finally eat the foods that you love again, how to get away from the just kind of managing your IBS to feeling like you have a whole new, well operating digestive system. So I hope you're able to get all of those from this. And as I also promised, the next steps would be, if you would like to step further into my world, into healing your IBS, I'm welcoming you and inviting you into a call with me. And like I said, even if you may not be in a position where a gut health program is for you right now, I am very open, just like I said, because you stayed on this call. I would love to do a free gut health check assessment, just see how is your gut health doing, how are your habits looking, and I can give you some insight into things you can tweak in order to start to feel better. So, and I can drop this link. I'll have to do this later because I realize I can't, I'm in Canva. So I'll do this later where I drop the link and I'll send it in an email. So hopefully that was really helpful for you guys. And I do want to see if you guys have any questions at all, any comments, anything at all. This is where I'll open it up to the floor. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and for anybody on the Instagram, before I forget, sorry, I'm going to actually end this because I do want to make sure that those on the call get to ask any questions in the privacy of, the Zoom. And let me see, sorry, hold on 1 second. I'm trying to capture some of the people. We can just take a brief intermission, right? Okay, cool. I think we're good. Okay, so I'm going to end it on the Instagram. I think I saw who is still on there, game of chronics illness. So hey, thank you for staying, and definitely message me if you have any questions, if you would like the replay. And I'm going to go ahead and end it there. So